Hello, I'm Will Perry. Welcome to Why Being Too Kind is Costing You More Than You Realise, and the hidden reason why people become exhausted, overwhelmed, and stuck. So, have you ever struggled to say no and maybe heard something and involved yourself in that straight away and thought, oh, I must do something, I must try and help, I must try. So it's not just being asked a question. Even before somebody's asked a question of you or asked something of you, it's difficult to say no. Worried about upsetting. What if they can't? You put too much emphasis on what they're actually thinking, what they've got on, rather than what you've got on. So worried about upsetting people, letting people down. Replay conversations over and over again in your head after the event. It's like, oh, I should have done this, I should have said this, I should have, rack yourself with guilt almost about what you could have said or should have said, or how they might have interpreted something without even checking. Does that make sense? Or apologised when you weren't wrong, leading with a sorry. Oh, sorry this, sorry that, sorry. I'm really sorry that, but when you did nothing wrong. Does that make sense? Put everyone else first. Without kind of, you put yourself as a last priority, or certainly lower than the other people. So, oh, no. And it's a bit more than just Britishness, if you know what I mean. It's more than, no, after you. No, after you. I insist, no, after you. It's a worth sense. You're more worthy. No, you must go first. That sort of thing. And ever felt emotionally drained after helping somebody? When you put so much into it, you feel drained yourself. Does any of this ring true? So if you're nodding, this isn't because you're weak in any way. In fact, the opposite. And it's not because you're broken. Okay, that's good news. So a little bit about my story, because all this is pertinent to me. I have done and to some extent do all of this. I grew up thinking I was too emotional, I was too effeminate, I was too weak, I was too soft, I was too emotional. I was definitely a people pleaser. I was a chameleon. I called the Cheshire Cat because I just grinned and fade into the distance at school. I did a lot of my early YouTube stuff was around emotional abuse, because I found these patterns where I'd attract relationships where these patterns were evident, where I made myself submissive and the other person dominant. But I kind of, in hindsight, I learned that I did that as well, that I played a part in that. But all the symptoms around emotional abuse, narcissism, that all really resonated for me to a strong extent that I really did a deep dive into that. I've had multiple divorces, not happy about that, but I've got 4 lovely children. But I've learnt a lot along the way, maybe not, during, but in hindsight, it's, oh my God, the patterns scream out. And I want to help other people with that. I've been through family court. It destroys such a difficult thing to maintain contact with my kids, which I have a lovely relationship, and it's very important to me, but going through family court can be a rough process. Bankruptcy with my last divorce. I'm not proud of this stuff, but I'm sharing it just so you don't think I'm coming from a place of everything being great. Having a court clerk of the court deliver stuff to your door, holding my baby, and it was like, no, this has been a mistake. It's who do I phone to make sure that, it's like, no worries, you just need to get this bit of paper. I got legal help, and just need to get this bit of paper saying that your signature's not on this. Fine, it'll be fine. Really stressful, but it'll be fine, because it wasn't that much. It was private schooling that my ex-wife had, and I knew it wasn't me, so it was fine in a way, but it was very stressful to get that signature. And sure enough, I found that school entry certificate that I'd signed as well, so I was liable for the school fees, and I couldn't pay it. I had no pay. I was living just on the breadline, and I had to go bankrupt. It was awful. And it has an impact as well, financially, for the future. But big impact emotionally. So, through every stage of this, you think it's you, and you just try harder and harder, and all the time asking this question: what's wrong with me? There's definitely, it's more than a belief; it's a certainty. You know there's something wrong with you, right? Can you relate to that? There's something wrong with me, but it turned out to be the wrong question, which is interesting. So I've had a big insight, and I want to share that with you. I discovered something called agreeableness. Now, agreeableness is one of the big 5 personality traits, profiles. And it wasn't like this happened overnight. It happened as it started to, I deep dived into it, as I often do, deep dive into the subjects to understand them more fully. And when I did, this started to make sense of a lot of things, a lot of these patterns within myself. And it's, I know labels are good. Some people overuse labels, but this one really helped me understand a whole raft of stuff that I've explained to you. And some people, like in all personality traits, are higher on some scores than others. And I found I was extremely high on this thing called agreeableness. So what is agreeableness? And people that are high in agreeableness score, and I've got a free test you can do, avoid conflict. So all these patterns started to ring true. So avoid conflict, value harmony, keep the peace. I'm a huge peacekeeper. I can remember in my childhood when my parents were arguing, I'd be the peacekeeper. I'd step in, my sister would back out and go and leave them to it. I'd step in and, even though it's, well, not scary, but as a kid you get scared, don't you? But I wanted to smooth the peace. I made jokes. I became the court jester, as it were, to keep the peace. People who are highly agreeable experience other people's feelings. They don't just notice them. They don't just can understand them. They can experience those feelings. So if somebody's sad or somebody's moved, somebody's, you can feel it within yourself when you're highly agreeable. Because some people can just notice, but people who are highly agreeable, they experience them. Does that make sense? You give way more than you receive when you're highly agreeable. You give of yourself way too much, and that's where the drain bit comes in. You can drain yourself. Does that make sense? Feel guilty for saying no. Can you relate to that? You feel guilty for saying no. So it's a difficult thing to say no, whereas some people who are less agreeable, absolutely fine, because they're doing other things. They're compromising. They compromise other people if they say no, if they don't say no. But if you're highly agreeable, actually saying no to somebody, it's like, maybe it would, it's a really difficult thing. And take responsibility for situations that are outside of their control. So if somebody's in a situation and they've caught themselves, you'll feel that, and you'll feel responsible somehow for it, and you'll entwine yourself into it and into negative situations, sometimes with negative people. Can you see how the patterns that I've described start to work? You get embroiled in other people's situations and personalities that are not beneficial for you. And you haven't got this filter to be able to gauge or judge. You're kind of, is this starting to make sense? Now, can you see yourself in any of this? Because it was, when I started piecing it all together, it was quite uncomfortable. But it made a lot of sense of this stuff. So can you see yourself in this? And if you're nodding, then stay watching. I've got some good news. But you want to be clear, why it costs so much, why it drains you so much, why we haven't got the filter maybe to notice this stuff, to differentiate what's good, what's bad, what we should do, what we shouldn't do, when we should say no, how to say no actually. And it's not because kindness is bad, but it's because highly agreeable people, or when you're high in agreeableness, it often means that we absorb other people's emotions. We're stuck in other people's emotions, not ours. We overthink criticism, so we over digest it, we overthink. We just overthink this stuff. We sacrifice our own needs. So again, put others' needs higher than our own. We stay too long in unhealthy relationships. Does that ring true? Because we become exhausted trying to keep everyone else happy. So that's for me why the battery symbol. Look, we're I was going to say flogging ourselves to keep others happy. We want to maintain the harmony. So become exhausted trying to keep everyone else happy. Does that ring true for you? So why it costs so much? Because kindness, get this, okay? Say this a few times, or listen, hear this, all right? Kindness without boundaries becomes self-abandonment. Kindness without boundaries becomes self-abandonment. So unless you put your boundaries in, unless you refine that beautiful gift that you have, you can slip into self-abandonment. It becomes a negative. Do you get that? But there is good news, all right? It's not doom and gloom, but I want to be real. Oh, that sounds a bit cheesy, be real with you, but I want to be realistic, because there's a hard truth to this, But the good news is that when you're highly agreeable, or high agreeableness is not a weakness. In fact, it's one of the most beautiful personality traits. I can get emotional saying that. It simply needs understanding. That's my view. It simply needs understanding. It needs boundaries. It needs confidence, and it needs wisdom. But it's a gift. That's the good news. And that's why I call it the highly agreeable advantage. You're at a great advantage if you have this, but you need to refine your gift. Maybe a diamonds ring true for this one. You need a little bit of polishing. So, have you taken the test? The highly agreeable, I put the highly agreeable aspect into a really quick 4-minute test. It's a free assessment. It doesn't label you, it's not to label you, but it's just to help you get this clarity, to help you understand yourself. So I've got the link around here. I invite you to take the test. Because most people think they are positive. Most people think they are kind. But I want to be able to put a measure on that to distinguish, just a minute, are you in this, not just kind, but you're in this highly agreeable. So either highly agreeable or very highly agreeable measure. Most people think they're kind. Oh yes, I'm the, everyone when you ask them would say they're kind, even though they're not. They're doing the most unkind or selfish things, or they're not, but they would absolutely swear blind they're kind. So agreeableness is different. It doesn't mean that you're not kind. It just goes that much further, and it breaks down into lots of different areas. So do you want to pause and take the test, or just watch the end and then watch the test? The link is around here for the test. Only takes about 4 minutes. There's no details. I don't ask for any details. I don't ask for an email so I can spam you. I don't ask, there's no cookies on it. There's no, it's completely, what's the word? It begins with A, the word, anonymous. There we go. So it's completely anonymous. I'm not tracking you in any way. It's an anonymous test. The benefit is for you to find out whether this could be, the thing that I found, the little breakthrough that I found that made so much sense for me, and maybe it will for you. And you get an instant score. It'll give you the score on your agreeableness score. Because if you're just kind of averagely agreeable, that's absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong. But for the people that are sort of highly agreeable and very high in agreeableness, this is what will make a lot more sense for you. And those are the people that are the diamonds that just need a bit of polishing to really, and I say it as a gift, to really make the best use of your gift. So either pause now, take the test, or keep watching and it finishes soon, and then you can take the test around here. You'll find the link around here. It will give you your results, or maybe you've had them already. Do the results surprise you? Have you spent years wondering why am I like this? Why and thinking, like I said earlier on, I know, not believe or think or wonder, but know there's something wrong with me. So are you thinking that? Have you been thinking that? So I'd invite you to continue the conversation inside the group, the free community that I'm setting up and growing for people with this score that's particularly high, because I think there's a real advantage to this. You're the diamonds that need polishing, in my view. and I think you could really benefit from it. So we're building a community where kind people finally feel understood. But a quick question, just to reflect on, where has your kindness been your greatest gift? Because I know it will have. The kindness, that when you've gone above and beyond, you've done more than other people, you've taken a step that people maybe haven't. Maybe it's a small act of kindness. Where's it been your greatest gift? You can either write it down and let me know. I'd love to know. But either in a private DM or whatever. Or it could have been a big thing. It could have been something that changed your life. But where has your kindness been your greatest gift? Because I know it has. There's been a moment in time, or maybe a few, where you've just shone and it felt so wonderful because of just what you might dismiss, a small act of kindness, but others were quite amazed by it. Does that make sense? Can you think of one? I bet you can. And equally, where has your kindness cost you the most? Because again, you'll probably be easier to reference this. This will be easier for you to reference personally because of your personality trait, if this is you. Of the negatives, where it's drained you, is probably, we're quite modest in terms of, oh yeah, I can think of times when I've been great. That's difficult. Like, it's difficult to say no. But, where has your kindness cost you the most? Because you can probably access and remember that feeling of being absolutely drained, but that you must push on. Can you relate to that? Because there's the extremes of this agreeableness personality profile in this score. So highly agreeable people don't just experience life, they absorb it. So if there's negativity around, they'll absorb that. And there is positivity around, but you are it. You're the one that gives that positivity. It doesn't take much to charge you. Doesn't take much. We can quick charge, and it's a lovely thing. But we need to do that, and we need to be able to protect ourselves and put the boundaries in and the things I've discussed. And we want to help you do that. We want to help you refine the gift that you have. So please, my invitation is continue the conversation inside the highly agreeable advantage. Come and find out. Do the test, find out where your score is, and if you align with this, and you probably know already, if you align with this, then I'd love to have you inside as we grow the community, as we grow the gifts to help you polish. I've been in self-development for many years, and I've got many tools that can help, and we've got some exciting ones lined up. So come and find out more, come and join the conversation. The highly agreeable advantage. I thank you.